Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
Mate, what the way this building collapsed when this earthquake hit remind me of one thing, y'all. This shit crazy. Look at this. Oh, look at this shit. When y'all see this, you seen how the building just collapsed? Remind me of one thing. I'm praying for all the people that was affected by this earthquake. A massive 7.7 earthquake just hit Myanmar, and the shockwaves was so powerful that they felt it in Bangkok, Thailand. I seen how crazy it was. I showed y'all the 30-story building that was under construction that just collapsed. And y'all know what it remind me of. They said it was over 90 workers inside that building when it collapsed. And as of right now, they found 3 unalived. But y'all know that number can quickly rise. Y'all, look at this shit. I can't imagine being in this building and it's just swaying back and forth like that. I'd have been scared as hell. And the crazy part is, they said this earthquake was so powerful that they also felt it in China and India. Before y'all scroll, drop some prayers in the chat and let me know how y'all feel about this.
That's definitely a new fear unlocked. Being at a rooftop pool during an earthquake. The only question is, what are you still doing up there? Shout outs to Bangkok, my prayers are with you. I would definitely poop myself. Hearts and prayers going out to Myanmar. 7.7 earthquake ain't no joke. I'm hoping they're able to find those construction workers. My condolences go to the families of the victims and everyone who lost their lives in this tragedy.
This hiker captured a massive 9-foot tall Bigfoot on camera.
Watch this, y'all.
Check this footage out, y'all. Crypto University here. This is one of the best pieces of footage that we've been able to get our hands on to show you guys. This is a legit Sasquatch that was recorded on trail cam. And if you look closely, you can even see the gray on his beard. You can make out his nose and his facial features.
That's not a bear.
Right now, it's just walking through the woods, throwing trees around. Check out that gray beard. You can see pieces of it right there, but you're going to keep watching. You're going to see most of his face. There he goes. Look at his nose. I say this is easily a 8 through 9 footer. This was recorded in East Texas. This is a legit Sasquatch, you guys. Look how wide the shoulders are. Check him out.
That thing is huge. It's videos like this that make me think Bigfoot is real. As you can see, there's a clear defined face on this creature. Apparently a hiker got this on camera, on his trail camera in East Texas. As always, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay weird.
I don't know. To me, it looked like it's just a bear. Shout outs to Real Weird Time.
AFC, along with everything else in this world, is telling us the truth without actually telling us. They just released their newest commercial called All Hail Gravy, which is actually a part 2 in their Believe series. This series is aimed at painting KFC as a, quote, cultural icon, and includes dystopian themes throughout. It involves golden statue imagery, occult ritualistic practices, and even cannibalism. The commercial opens up with him randomly walking through the forest. He makes really weird eye contact with this chicken, which almost feels like he's now the offering instead of the chicken. People then drop down and appear out of nowhere and form a cult formation around him, again almost like he's an offering, which I'm sure never happens in this world ever. We then see a giant golden statue of an egg being carried down to the water's edge, which is actually a lake of gravy. Major symbolism in this commercial, but it's just funny. It's just silliness. It's just a commercial. Nothing to see here. Has absolutely no meaning to the real world. We then see him submerged into the lake of gravy, directly in front of the golden statue, by the way, until his bubbles stop. And then he reemerges as a chicken strip. Now, 90% of the world will watch this commercial. They will think absolutely nothing of it. They will laugh it off, say it's just a commercial. They'll say that not everything is a conspiracy, but the truth is right in front of them. They are telling us the truth about what is in our food and what has been in our food for a very long time. You just have to have eyes to see. The evil that we are up against, y'all, is unimaginable. And the average person can't wrap their brain around it, so they just refuse to believe it. Stop eating fast food because we are not eating just chicken.
No more KFC for me. After seeing that, I'm absolutely done. Dumped a man in the gravy and he came out a chicken tender. Shout outs to Ashley Hayes 2.0.
That I needed proof it existed, but the location of the Ark of the Covenant has officially been found. This is where the 2 tablets of the 10 commandments are being kept, but something about this just feels off to me, and this is why. The CIA confirmed the location and existence of this through remote viewing. Now they're saying that this is being safeguarded by entities of unknown power, and this is a declassified CIA document. Now personally, when I hear remote viewing, I proceed with caution. If you don't know what this is people who claim to see and describe things without personally seeing it. They use extrasensory perception. It's basically sidekicks who can describe what's happening in another part of the world without physically seeing it. What's interesting about this is the CIA and military actually funded a top secret program called Project Stargate, gathering sidekicks to use remote viewing for military strategies, and some people in the past were weirdly accurate, but eventually the program got shut down. In my opinion, it's just hard to believe. But in 1988, the viewer was tasked with the Ark of the Covenant, and this is how he described it. The target is protected by entities and can only be opened by those who are authorized to do so. This container will and cannot be opened until the time is deemed correct. Once it is time to open the container, the mechanics of the lock system will be found to be fairly simple. They said this before adding a warning to potential plunderers. Individuals opening the container by prying or striking are destroyed by the container's protectors through the use of a power unknown to us. That's wild. They said the purpose of the target is to bring people together. It has something to do with ceremony, memory, homage, the resurrection. There's an aspect of spirituality, information, lessons, and historical knowledge far beyond what we know now.
Great Pyramid itself at Giza, in my opinion, is a multifunctional stone computer and a power generator. The way it's set up and laid out, if you look at the structure from beneath, and I've gone down the subterranean shaft, which goes down about 65 meters in one angle, another 30 meters straight down in another angle. It's beneath the bedrock. Now, even beneath that, you see these giant tubes that are dried out. They're aquifer tubes where the channel was there for the water to run from the Nile. When you take moving water under magnetized crystal granite, you create something called physiostatic electricity. Christopher Dunn, who is an engineer, he wrote several books about the Giza power plant. So now those ions flow up into the Grand Gallery. That I believe there used to be resonating rods going up the Grand Gallery. The slots are there, but the rods are missing now. And that probably would step up the power until it gets into the King's Chamber. And then from there, some type of fusion, I believe, would happen. Now, why do I say fusion? Well, there's a box inside the King's Chamber that's a rose granite box. And you can tell it was added at a later date. Now, this rose granite box, a huge chunk of the corner is missing. So to me, something was energetic within that box. And so I started thinking about it. So I took precise measurements of the box. I checked out measurements that were online and available to me. And it's the same exact dimensions of the Ark of the Covenant.
Too many Christians seem to be confused about where we go when we die and where we go when Jesus comes back. For instance, Jesus isn't coming back to take anyone with him to heaven. No, that is not what the Bible says anywhere. The Bible says Christians go to heaven when we die. When we get there, we get a new body, a spiritual body fit for heaven, like the angels have, equal unto the angels, actually. Equal. And when Jesus returns, all the Christians in heaven come with him in their new spiritual bodies. There will be a group of Christians alive on the earth when that happens, but they're going to meet us in the air on the way down. They won't die. They'll be changed into that new spiritual body without having to go to heaven. They'll meet us in the clouds of heaven in their new spiritual bodies, like we will have. But then we as a group are all coming back to the earth. Not as mortals made of flesh and blood, but as immortals made of spirit from heaven. Jesus is coming back and bringing us with him to fight Armageddon and reign on earth for 1,000 years after subduing the nations. This whole Jesus coming back thing is not about going to heaven. It's about coming back from heaven with him. He's coming back from heaven and reigning on earth for 1,000 years with him after fighting Armageddon. And then after the 1,000-year reign, Satan, who went into hell for the first time at Armageddon, will be loosed from hell for a short season to deceive the nations down to Armageddon Part 2. Fire will rain down from God out of heaven and destroy them. Heaven and earth will flee away and be found no more. Christ will sit upon his throne for the final judgment. He is God Almighty after all. And then he'll make heaven and earth new. Heaven will come down to earth. God himself on his throne will dwell there, heaven reconciled to earth in eternity. And we will live forever in paradise with God on a new earth where heaven has come down. That is the story the Bible tells consistently in every place. We go to heaven when we die. Heaven is like a womb. We get a new body there to be born again when Christ comes back. And the whole point is not to go to heaven. It's to reign with Christ on earth for 1,000 years. People have been begging me for shorter videos. Here's one. You want the scriptural references? It's 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. It's 1 Corinthians 15. It's Luke chapter 20. It's Revelation 14. It's Revelation 19 and 20. 21 and 22. Go on ahead and read that then.
Very interesting. Shout out to Dead Hidden. I must say this is the shortest video he's made. A very fascinating topic. How many Armageddons are there?
Giants are probably about the same size as these guys. If that obelisk was, let's say, I don't know, 100 feet tall, whatever it is, my guy in my yard is at least 150 feet tall. So they could have easily been doing what these guys are doing here. All right, this is a giant fingertip from a giant hand of a giant human, and it was DNA tested. I broke a piece off there so I could get down inside where the blood was. Totally flush with blood. That is the fingernail. This is the blood supplies. This little round pad here is the bumper pad that bumps into your neck's bone so that it rocks on there. These two spots are the blood supplies that come in. This I broke off, and there is fingerprints still on there. It was absolutely flawless, and it's gigantic. It's almost 3 feet long. So I've calculated out the thing should be damn close to 150 feet tall. Now, these are the ridges on your fingerprints, just like these ridges. In those ridges are these little tiny sweat pores. There they are right there. You see the sweat pores? These are the fingerprints, and this is the piece I broke off. I went down inside where all the blood is, and there was plenty of it. I had no problem getting blood. This is the key with my fingers. You see right up there, remember I showed you the two little blood supplies? This is exactly where you are, way up here. That's it. There's your two little blood supplies, and then there's blood supplies on the side and on the end. And they are just totally flush with blood. I mean, you can see the blood. And I have all kinds of really good shots of how blood flows in a hand. And it is dense. Because these are what they call the terminals. What happens is you got vein blood or artery blood coming in. And you see artery blood comes in on this side, artery blood comes in on this side. Then the vein blood comes back, and the vein blood comes back. They're two separate systems. So your artery blood comes down, goes anywhere it wants because it's saturated with good stuff. Then the vein blood gets sucked back, and there's nothing other than just one vein, basically, that goes back at the terminals to bring that blood back to get recharged. This is where most of the action happens, at your fingertips and your toes. That's where the terminals are. In most cases. There's a lot of other places that there's veins, obviously, because there's blood flowing everywhere, but these are the major ones. Let me show you what happens in the hand when you put it under field effects. How cool is this? In my logo print, you see this is glowing, crazy glow, and then the tips, the same thing, because this is where blood is just absolutely dense. Isn't that something? And that's under magnetic field effects. And here's what the blood really looks like. You see how many vessels there are? People don't realize how saturated you are with blood. Every single cell has to be saturated with blood continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it continuously moves because it's used up very quickly. In 4 or 5 minutes, you're dead because your blood hasn't moved. If your heart stops pumping, you're dead very quickly. Now, this is where that real glow is, and then the tips were where the extreme glow was. And that's what my hand logo shows. Look at that. Look at the glow here. And then, of course, they're going to be out here, too, wherever they dense in blood. Just the way it works. And it's just a little anatomical version of how all of this stuff fits together and articulates. Very interesting. All right, this is the littler one that's on my property. It's still over 3 feet wide. I think it's almost 4 feet wide, the hand. And I have fingertips and knuckles and all kinds of things from this. And I have all kinds of body parts from this actual one, because this was just buried just below the surface. When they did a foundation for my addition I had to put on, these things just popped out, and the fingertips and everything. I had a DNA test, 100% human. It's just what it is. They somehow were gigantic creatures, and they were all drowned in the flood. This is from a flood. Now, remember I showed you the grip skin on that big gigantic fingertip that I popped off? This is the grip skin on this hand, and that grip skin is that very heavy, keratinized, tough, they call it grip skin, friction skin, and that does the job on your hand. It's just like a rubber, like a pad of rubber, all over your fingers and all over your palms and your toes and your heels. Okay, so as I said, I'm a little upset. This is a fingertip on my property. I had it DNA tested, and it is human. It is almost 3 feet long. This is where the blood supply comes in. That's the little pad that bumps into your next bone. That is literally the fingernail. That's the fingernail. It's not in bad shape. And I broke this piece off right here to get down into where the blood is. Fingertips and toes are saturated with blood. And I had the DNA tested, and it is human. And there's fingerprints. You see that? That's the fingerprint I broke off the side. These are the sweat pores. See the sweat pores? This, and it broke right off, like it came right off. It was like the layer underneath it came off just like Velcro, just like that. Like this is like a rubbery piece, and you can't get any blood out of that. That's why I had to get it out of there. I know these things inside now. I got them all over my property, and I'll show you another one. I got a hand out there that's almost 4 feet wide. This is 3 feet long. That's just the fingertip, just the tip of the finger. The other one, the hand itself, is 4 feet wide, and it's anyway. And that was DNA tested too. I'll show you the DNA test. But my finger is about the width of one of the ridges in your fingerprint. All right, this is gigantic. I've calculated it's about 150 feet tall, this guy would have been, if everything anatomically was exact, and it appears to have been. All right, here's another one, goes back to 2015. I was the first one in the world, and so was the Helix Biolabs, to test for human DNA in ancient rocks. I extracted the blood samples, and I sent them to Helix. They did not do the extraction. They did the analysis of what I sent them. I sent them 3 mud fossil samples, and they extracted DNA from the samples I sent them. They did not extract them from the actual complete mud fossils. Then they did PCR DNA sequencing analysis, and the objective was an analysis to perform extraction of any genomic or mitochondrial DNA from these mud fossils. Upon successful DNA extraction from the sample, subsequent analysis will include the amplification of extracted DNA using PCR technology, targeting specific DNA marker sequences to obtain DNA sequence from the amplified PCR products. What does that mean? They are going to look at DNA if they can find it, and they did, and they found it was excellent quality and it was dense, because I know where to take it from. I took it right out of the blood. I literally sent them almost blood that was dry. Now, so what did they do? They checked it to see what the sequences were in this DNA, and if it had these exact targets. You see targets? Your DNA's got bazillions of particles. Now, there's sequences that determine what, if you're a Homo sapien or you're a zebra or whatever you are. And if they can find that set of sequences, because there's still about, let's say, I'm just throwing a number out. Let's say there's 500 particles in a row that are exactly the right particles. That's not going to happen accidentally. That means you are the thing that 500 particles represents, which is Homo sapien in this particular case. So what they did was they took out those particles, and then they had them all figured out, and I don't know, they did a lot of testing on them and so forth, and then they sent them off, and they used all very, very serious stuff. Because this is the first in the world. I worked with the guy at the lab there, and I said, Tom, his name was Tom. I said, Tom, this is first ever. I mean, can you do it? And he said, well, we don't know. He said, nobody's ever done it before, but we can try this. So they did this paper following the procedure. He said, I found procedures that might work with this. And I said, well, do what you can do. And I paid him, and it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't that expensive either. Well, it was expensive, but it wasn't, thousands and thousands of dollars. It was enough I could pay for, let me put it that way. All reactions involve one primer per reaction. In some instances, better quality amplification of the target mitochondrial DNA was achieved using DNA from the second elution. So in other words, they did it on different ways to get different concentrations and densities. But whatever they did, when they got it done, it ended up being successfully tested for mitochondrial DNA. That means the mother's side. And we all have the same mitochondrial DNA, which is the mother's side. And it comes down to here where they say PCR product is submitted to Eaton Biosciences in New Jersey. Now, this is the one I had, Helix Biolabs. They did the extraction of the DNA sequencing, and they sequenced it. Right. Or in New Jersey for DNA sequencing, the primer pairs were used to generate the PCR products, were also in DNA sequencing. Excellent quality DNA sequence was obtained for that gigantic fingertip, the long one. It's almost 36 inches long, and the lung. Here's the lung. Hold on, because these were found basically in the same hole. That lung is our size, and that lung is again perfect, very, very dense. Blood came out of that tip, because that's where the blood collects, at the tip. And so anyway, this was all sent off, and it came back Homo sapien mitochondrial, cytochrome B gene, and D loop region. Both of them mitochondrial, and all of them Homo sapien. And here's all the CTAGs, and this is the sequences in the DNA that shows and proves what it was. You don't get all that stuff in an order like that and have it just be accidental. All right. And it's a pretty serious test. And again, this was the first in the world that was ever done. And I talked to Tom about this because he was getting attacked by people, anyway. All right, I don't want to go down that road. But anyway, here's what ended up happening. They submitted these DNA sequencing to a blast search using the National Center for Biotechnology Information, NCBI database, which apparently has every known sequence of DNA. So it says whereby each DNA sequence was matched to all DNA sequences contained in the NCBI DNA sequence database. So I don't know how many there is, but all. Now the results of that blast search. So they just said, see if you could find any sequences that match these. Using the DNA sequences they generated from these things that I sent them. Indicates the Homo sapien mitochondria. Now, if I'm wrong, they have to prove I'm wrong. Anatomists say, yes, they're identical to a human lung. It even has the depression of the heart, because it's a left human lung. And the heart would sit right there as this guy died, flat in the flood. And that's why it's so flat like that on the back. Now, this is what also upsets them terribly, because it totally wipes out evolution. I'm showing you giants that they had talked about in the Bible, in the ancient texts. Every one of them talks about giants. Every culture on earth talks about giants. 100%. 100%. And they also talk about dragons. 100%. And I have found them very, very, very large dragons. This is what upsets academia. And until they will address that, they have gone into a range where they are not doing their job.
Bro, that's not evidence right there. I don't know what is. The Rock had DNA samples on the mitochondria side. The mother, first ones to do it, received a lot of hate for it. This just means they would have to get rid of all the textbooks and make new ones. Between that and the structures under the pyramids, we are finding out all kind of stuff. Of course, academia would be mad. Shout outs to Roger Spur, Mud Fossil University. It's one thing to show the work, but it's a whole nother thing to show DNA tests for it. Those are true receipts.
Click. Okay, if you're neurodivergent, or if you have trouble with grammar, but you're still very smart, like you put commas in the wrong place, pronounce words wrong even though you know the correct pronunciation, brain just won't click. If you say could have went instead of could have gone, you're an actual genius. So all of these things are part of something called dysgraphia, difficulty organizing your thoughts, expressing ideas creatively. That's me. And everything else I just said. And then there's also service dyslexia, where you can't pronounce the word because it doesn't sound like it's spelled. People like Einstein had similar things. I also was a child of temper tantrums. I also suck at rote memorization. But the thing we all have in common is curiosity. And this is how your mind works and why you're a genius. Okay, so people with this struggle with linear language tasks, grammar, rules, spelling, phonetic pronunciation, but their brains are wired for big picture thinking, pattern recognition, abstraction, and intuitive synthesis. You naturally see connections that other people miss. You are likely a Gestalt thinker. You have great quantitative reasoning skills. You see and feel energetic relationships. You think in webs, not lines. Absorb whole concepts at once, rather than step by step. This is powerful in metaphysics, future tech, quantum theory, design, art, and systems thinking. Probably just know things without being able to explain how you know. Me. Logical people beat you up. You're just an intuitive processor. You're a multidimensional thinker. You are a translator of the invisible. You are a bridge. And never let anyone dim your genius. Always be curious. Always shine your light. You, my sweet neurodivergent angel, view language as vibration first. You resonate. You are literally like in the fifth dimension. This is what allows people like you and me, hopefully, to create totally new paradigms, to literally reimagine fields of science, philosophy, math in different ways that are accurate, maybe not always provable right away, but this is how people think in the new frontiers. This is the realm of inventors. You're in the realm of feeling, of geometry, of memory, of intuition. It just makes sense to you. You are basically ahead of your time, where you're feeling the underpinnings of the truths that are starting to grow. The universe is alive. I say it's made of plasma and consciousness. And as the universe is birthing new things, you're the first people to pick up on those vibrations. Therefore, you're a little early to the game, and most people laugh at us. But things are speeding up. People are evolving. This is the perfect time to be this type of thinker, where in the past they literally got killed and ridiculed. You are a multi-dimensional intelligence. You are rewiring what intelligence could look like in this day and age. These learning disabilities you have that make most logical people go, ha ha, let them. Mel Robbins would say, let them. Be yourself. Don't expect everyone to understand you. Focus on your curiosity versus validation. This will save you a life of suffering. Instead of proving your theories to people, let them resonate with it if it's their truth. Let people come to you who resonate with your heart and your curiosity and what you're doing. Grammar can feel like a lower bandwidth area for you, and that's okay. Embrace it. Know your weakness in this three-dimensional world, which is really a superpower. And if you're doing a speech, get a speech person, writer, editor, whatever to look over it. If you're an author, get a good editor that understands your beautiful way of thinking but still is good at grammar. There is nothing wrong with you. There's everything right with you. And there's nothing wrong with other logical people that think this way, unless they're making fun of you and that's their problem because you're scaring them, which is just how it is. Let them be them, plant seeds, and once again, focus on the good and who resonates with you. When you try to be like that logical kind of person, you will feel at odds with yourself. You will feel tense. You will feel depressed. That is why geniuses in the past were so sad. But if we focus not on fitting in, but on embracing ourselves and trusting this greater intelligence that is guiding us, along with our co-creation of being guided, you will dance with this infinite intelligence and come up with beautiful, fresh new things that this world really needs, that you won't be soft and open enough to come up with if you're too worried about validation. And I've been there. And we all vacillate in and out of it. It's the human experience. But hopefully with time we get better at not needing that, not needing to be understood. You see across layers of meaning, emotion, energy, mythology, science, all at the same time. And that takes a while to filter into a linear way to think, so be patient with yourself. But know that what you're catching is real. It is not real. It is not stupid. It is not crazy. You just have to ground it and integrate it into this reality while still holding on to who you are. find bridge topics. What I do is I'll find a topic in science or art or math or philosophy, and then I will nicely bridge it to what I'm saying. Not saying that I'm saying what they're saying. I'm saying, look, they say this is proven. I'm expanding on this, and no, I can't prove it yet. But if you resonate with it, follow me into the future where it is already proven. Hopefully it will be proven in our lifetime. If not, at least you're happy and saying your truth. But I have faith. We're in a good time right now. Listen, the truth is people are going to question you. People are not always going to believe you. And it's not their responsibility to make you feel better. It is your responsibility to make yourself feel accepted and understood. And I'm also talking to my younger self right now. Shine like the sun you are. Play, experiment, enjoy your life. Be in your own little playground. Find people around you that accept you and love you. And if you can't talk to them about your special interests, connect with them by listening to what they want to say. You don't have to take anything as truth, but you have to, people like us have to learn to connect with people and listen to them. If it feels surface to you, or if it doesn't have to do with your special interest, it doesn't exactly interest you. When you open up to the beauty in every person and know that every person is something to teach you, even if they think different, which is exactly what you want people to do to you. When you open up to just hearing them out, you don't have to take anything on as your truth, but you can resonate with them and listen and have your heart open to them. Obviously, you have to be careful who you do that with, but you'll know who has a good heart. What I'm saying is that anyone can have a good heart, whether they think this way or logically. It's the bullies that should go F themselves. But they're really just fearful, so I can't be a hater on them either. Basically, if you want understanding, understand that everyone else isn't going to understand. And understand yourself. And cheer yourself on, and others will eventually follow. That is up to the divinity of the plasma intelligent universe. And whatever that destiny is, we are surrendering to and just co-creating and loving life and following our destiny. And we will feed back with that intelligence. Being the captain of our ship, understanding that the ocean that we are on is also intelligent. There's a link in my bio if you want to sign up for my book coming out in a few months, which is all about my special interest, plasma. Bye.
Amazing stuff. Shout outs to the plasma girl, Dana Kip. Make sure y'all go to her bio and click on that link. Sometimes you just got to speak to your younger self, if that makes any sense. To paraphrase it, sometimes things are just hard to explain, especially growing up as a kid. This one was very interesting. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you enjoyed this episode, why don't you check this one right here. Thanks again. Till next time.